Should we talk about Victor Wembanyama last night? My goodness, did he put on a show. 38 points, 16 boards, 5 blocks, just to keep it nice and casual against the East-leading Pistons. De'Aaron Fox also added 29 points in a game the Spurs never trailed. They won 121-106. Detroit has now lost 2 in a row, while San Antonio has won 13 out of their last 14. And so here's Fox on his message to Wemby after the win last night.
I told him, this is what every game's going to feel like. This is exactly what the playoffs is going to feel like. So I think we've been able to embrace that, go out. We still continue to play our game. I mean, we want to get stops, we want to get out in transition, but we know that we have to be able to take physicality and give it back as well. And we've been able to do that during this stretch.
There are many components in winning games and winning championships, and over a season, you will need a little bit of luck at some time, right? But that luck, you can make it happen, you can influence it, and this is the things that make luck happen,
Come on, dude. There's no luck in this right now. What are you talking about? Victor Wembanyama joined a very elite group in Spurs history, recording his 3rd career game with 30 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 blocks, the 3rd most by a Spur. Plus, Wemby became the first player with 35 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 blocks, and 4 3-pointers in a game since the 1979-1980 season. So we're looking at Wemby last night, and everyone's like, what is happening right now? This guy is an absolute terror. But is he the best player right now in the NBA, Vince?
You guys ever seen the movie The Usual Suspects?
Yes.
And the big reveal at the end?
Who's Kaiser Soze?
Big Slim is Kaiser Soze. He's just hiding right in front of you. He is Kaiser Soze. He is Victor Voorhees, but we're going to call him Big Slim because when he is impactful like this, there is not a more impactful player in the game because he had 5 blocks last night. I counted 15, 16 shots where players were spooked at seeing where he is and where he was. And even he was nowhere near the ball. That's the impact that he can have. I don't know if he's better than Nikola Jokic or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from a consistency basis because he only plays 29 minutes a game. But from the standpoint of what he can do, I think this playoff run is going to be generational in a way that we're going to see him being an MVP next year. You got to go through it once. You got to go through the rigors of the postseason one time, get your heart broken. I'm one of those people, Canty. I'm like the old heads that tell me all the time, you can't just go from not winning the playoff series to going to the finals. They're not going to the finals this year, but they're going to gain valuable experience, and Big Slim is going to gain so much. Canty, I can already hear you blowing smoke already.
Because you like my mama. My mama's a Methodist preacher. She's been preaching longer than I've been alive. You believe in a methodology. You believe in the progression. And what I'm telling you is Wemby's talent will allow the San Antonio Spurs to skip steps. Because as you already said, there is no player in the NBA that has the kind of gravity that Wemby has on the offensive end of the court, on the defensive end of the court. The block that he had early on Cade Cunningham, was that 7.5-minute mark in the first quarter? That's an incredible play, right? Cade Cunningham on the step through. He has a way to be able to ray trace and pin the ball on the backboard. The block that he had in the fourth quarter, 8.5 minutes to go. I mean, starts a 4-on-1 fast break and ends up getting the lob from Devin Vassell. This guy is absolutely incredible. Maybe the most impressive aspect of his game, though, is how he forces defenses to collapse on the paint. And then that leads to wide open guys on the perimeter. And last night, those wide open guys took advantage of over-aggressive closeout by the Detroit Pistons, which ends up leading to layups in the paint. So when it comes to the Wemby effect, he doesn't have to show up on the stat sheet to have an outsized impact on the game.
He did.
And
he did that too.
Well, he did that too, but it doesn't always happen every single night like that, but it doesn't take away from what he does for this team. He is the best player in this league right now in terms of both ends on the court. There is no question about it. And that's why I'm a believer in the San Antonio Spurs being able to get to the NBA Finals this year.
Yeah, if you're talking about the impact defensively, Vinny talked about people being spooked. It's a stat that I've created called the hell no with Victor Wembanyama. When you see Victor Wembanyama in the paint and you say hell no, and there are stats to back this thing up. Only 41% of the shots that the Spurs defend are in the paint, which is the lowest that we've had in the NBA ever, which means that players are seeing Wemby and they're saying, I want no parts of this dude in the paint. He is going to blow up everything that you can do offensively. He's going to blow up your pick and roll. He's going to blow up your lob. He can be in the paint and go out there and block a guy at the three-point line. That's what he does. So when you're talking about precedent and things that we've seen before, we ain't never seen Wemby before. And the closest thing that we have seen, go back to 2007, LeBron James and that Cleveland Cavaliers team. We were talking about them and that progression and being a little bit ahead of schedule. Next thing you know, he's putting up 25 points in a row against the Detroit Pistons. I'm sorry, Vinny, against that Detroit Pistons team. And they are in the finals because of what LeBron James did.
You know
Victor Wembanyama is the closest thing to that, and he has the potential to be that kind of guy.
It's funny you brought up that precedent because that is a great precedent. You know what happened in 2006? LeBron had a playoff run. They got to the second round. They got to the seventh game against those same Detroit Pistons, and they lost. And that's what I'm saying. The Spurs are not a championship caliber team right now. That's no shot to them because they didn't expect to be a championship caliber team this season. They are a year ahead of schedule. They don't have that desperation, those expectations. That's Denver. That's the Lakers. That's the champion Thunder. Those are the teams that have to win. The Lakers always have to win. They said championship expectations. I say it was realistic.
Okay. Dang, about to say that ain't gonna happen.
No. We comparing the Spurs to the Lakers now. Come on.
Look, I can expect to date Kelly Rowland. It don't mean that it's realistic. It just means I can have expectations. That's where the Lakers are. I'm saying that San Antonio, they're moving incrementally. And I think when you look at teams, San Antonio, Detroit, the fact that they didn't make moves at the trade deadline to bolster shooting and shot creation lets me know that the front office, that the ownership does not want to skip steps and they're willing to let their natural progression percolate on its own.
What will it take for you to be convinced that the Spurs could be a championship team this year? Well, is there anything that could maybe convince you?
Yeah, them being there. Or if Shea gets hurt or Chet gets hurt or something opens up. I think them beating Oklahoma City 4 out of 5 times, including in the NBA Cup, that raised the level of expectations outside. I think in a 7-game playoff series, y'all, you guys know it's a different sport. It's not regular season basketball. It's a totally different sport, and I'm anxious to see what they're going to do. I'll be impressed, but I don't have the expectation.
I know it's not in the NBA, but Victor Wembanyama played one of the most intense basketball games we've ever seen, a gold medal game against Team USA. Now, I know it's not playoffs. I know it's kind of an apples to orange, but it is still a high-level game against the best players in the world, and you lost that game and you experienced that heartbreak. That is something that can bolster you come playoff times. In addition to that, when I'm looking at the Spurs, they're checking all the boxes of what you do as a playoff-ready team. They have 25 wins against teams that are above 500. They've beaten the best teams in the league with OKC and Detroit by double digits. This is what championship-level teams do. And what impressed me so much about what Wemby did last night, the first time they played Detroit, Jalen Duren and them were giving them so much trouble.
They were beating him up.
They were beating him up. He could not score. He says, fine, I'm going to play again. Jalen Duren, I don't want to see you on the court. 4 fouls like that. Get off the court. That is veteran-level savvy that you're doing it in real time. Mm-hmm. The things that you felt like you could do to defend Wemby early in the season, you can't do anymore. He is on a different level, which I feel like is why you can skip some of these steps with a guy like that.
He can. Can they?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if they can defend the way that they've shown, having a top 3 defensive rating, if Steph Castle keeps guys like Cade Cunningham, who's a top 3 MVP candidate in a straitjacket like he's done the last 2 games, they absolutely can. I mean, last year, we praised Oklahoma City, and we had confidence in them going on a deep run because of how they defended, being able to generate so many turnovers, being able to get out in transition and get easy buckets. That is the San Antonio Spurs this year. You've got to be able to play defense in the playoffs. That's when it matters the most. And I'm not sure that any team has the type of versatility defensively that the San Antonio Spurs are bringing to the party because of a guy like Victor Wembanyama, but then also because of how those perimeter pieces can defend and what they've shown, especially in the second half of this season.
I think generally in the playoffs, you're going to learn this is a different sport as far as the value of shooting in today's game. The Spurs are a middle-of-the-pack, at best, 3-point shooting team. When the lane collapses, the refereeing gets a lot tougher. Teams are going to load up on Victor and start putting their elbows and to his torso and pushing him out. He has to learn how to play that level of basketball. I get your point on the Olympics, but it's different when you're playing every other day for 2 weeks, the same team, and how the game planning goes.
Right, let's go to the other side of this, the Pistons, because they lead the East right now, but they just got, I'm not going to say blown out, but they were beat by 15 yesterday against the Spurs. They've now lost 2 in a row. So when you look at the Pistons, have they already peaked? Have they already played their best basketball?
Yeah, I think the league is kind of figuring this team out, and the Pistons are going to have to figure out what to do about that. The story is out on them. The game plan is out on them. If Cade Cunningham is not able to score, what do they have? What is their second option? He is 15, for 52 against the Spurs, and they had no answer for him. Stephon Castle put him in a lockbox, 7 for 24 that whole time. What else do you have besides Cade Cunningham? The Pistons have not been able to figure that out. And come playoff time, all these teams are going to be doubling Cade as soon as he crosses half court. They're going to be daring other dudes to shoot. They're at the bottom of the league in three-point attempts. They're at the bottom of the league at three-point makes. They're in the bottom of the league at three-point percentage. These are the things you need to win, and the Pistons just do not have that right now. Now, Cade Cunningham can do all kinds of things and make up for it, but once you start to defend him like that, it is trouble for this Pistons team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the answer to the question, right? Cade Cunningham is everything that they have on the offensive side of the ball, and if you shut him down, you shut them down, right? They don't have enough firepower, and we knew that coming into this season, some of the things that have happened around that team from a roster standpoint, they were going to be struggling, especially when it came to perimeter shooting. And so I think when it comes to the Detroit Pistons, they're the team that you use as the example of in terms of making sure that you don't skip steps. I understand they had the heartbreak last year, first round against the New York Knicks, but they're a team that feels like they have to go through the progression and have more shots at playoff runs before they actually break through. It doesn't feel like that with the San Antonio Spurs. So, yeah, I like what Cade has done. I think he's deserving to be in the conversations that he's in right now. But they don't feel like a team that has enough firepower offensively, enough guys that can just be proven bucket getters when it comes to playoff-style basketball, when it comes to being able to create shots for themselves and others. They don't have enough of that element on their roster outside of Cade.
Multiple things come up here, and I think it's important to point out they lost Malik Beasley on the eve of free agency. They expected to bring him back. That was a guy who was thirsty for shots.
Yeah.
He would go around and take 15 threes in a game just because of the gravity around Cade Cunningham. They don't have another guy that fits that bill. What they do best is make sure that you have a nightmare game on offense. What they do best is they make things very disruptive defensively. They're the best defensive team in basketball, even outside of San Antonio and Oklahoma City. The numbers have suggested that for the large stretch of this season. They play playoff basketball in the regular season. Mm-hmm. What happens when everybody's playing playoff basketball or playoff-style defense in the playoffs? I'm 100% with you guys. They do not have a secondary scorer outside of Cade. When they double off and you wind up having to give it to Tobias Harris or Asar Thompson and have them create plays, that's when things get a little tricky. They will tell you.
We need Asar Thompson to be healthy.
Yeah, that's the other part. What the Pistons will tell you is our defense creates offense, and I'm 100% with them. That Asar Thompson is disruptive, Isaiah Stewart is disruptive, Jalen Duren is disruptive. But I think when the game shrinks, you're going to ask Cade Cunningham to do way too much. And I point this out all the time. They did not make a move at the trade deadline with the roster that they had, knowing the deficiencies in shot creation and shooting, to let me say they're going to make the finals, which lets me know they don't think that they're going to make the finals this season, that making the second round, that making the conference finals is good enough for them. The East is all predicated on matchups. If they play the Knicks, they'll beat the Knicks. If they play Cleveland, might be a problem. It all depends on how the brackets shake out.
I don't know if they're going to let you back home talking like that now.
Right.
He's like, I've said worse.
I'm Visa, baby. I already where you want. Right? Don't worry about it.
Well, speaking of the East, right now the Celtics are 4.5 games behind the Pistons. And guess what the Celtics are going to get? A major boost to their roster tonight when Jayson Tatum returns for the first time since tearing that Achilles in the playoffs last season. Tatum, less than 10 months removed from tearing the Achilles. The six-time All-Star will return tonight for the C's at home when they face the Mavericks. Here's Stephen A. on Tatum's return.
Seriously speaking, all joking aside, because I got a lot of love for Jayson Tatum. Great guy, great player. I'm worried. When KD was out with his Achilles tear, he was gone for more than 500 days. Jayson Tatum just got hurt in Game 4 last year against the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Semifinals playoffs. He hasn't even been out a year yet. I'm a bit nervous for him, in all seriousness, because I don't want him to get hurt again. And I don't think that it's necessary to rush him back when you consider the fact that Boston is 20 games over 500, the top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference.
So just for some clarity on days here, it has been 288 days since he tore his Achilles. Obviously, that is a very short amount of time. And yes, no, it is not close to a year. He has definitely sped up the process, I think, more than any of us can fathom. With that being said, what are the expectations for Jayson Tatum tonight, Canty?
Oh, my expectations is that they're going to give Jayson Tatum ample opportunity for a ramp up. They're not going to rush him. There's going to be a minutes restriction. So I'm not going to jump out of the window with what I see from Tatum, good or bad, tonight. What I want to see is making sure that all of the role players, everybody that's slotted into their respective role in making this team what they've been this season, continues to play at that high level, even with the presence of Jayson Tatum on this roster. Now, I'm always been a proponent of great players and great coaches will find a way to figure it out. And so I don't expect anything to be different with the Boston Celtics, with Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard adding Jayson Tatum back. But that's the thing that I want to see, making sure that the role players, guys like Kata and Vucevic and those players feel comfortable with the presence of Jayson Tatum now that they know minutes and rotations are going to be affected and things are going to feel a little bit differently.
Yeah, but I think that it's going to be a seamless transition. Like, Jayson Tatum is under no preconceived notion here that he's going to come in there and put up 25 shots and be the leader of this team. I don't think there's an expectation for him to do this at any point for the rest of the season. Jayson Tatum is coming onto this roster with the understanding that they have a real deal shot at a championship. And what he is going to do is his best to get them to that championship. If we're in this position come playoff time where Jayson Tatum feels like I got to be Kobe, I got to take over for this squad, then you got a real big problem. But I don't see that with Jayson Tatum. I don't see that with Joe Mazzulla. I don't see that with Jaylen Brown. You are getting a really good role player added on to a top 3 offense in the league and a top 10 defense. There are no negatives when it comes to that.
I see things a little bit differently because I remember the Jayson Tatum that was at the Olympics and didn't understand why LeBron James and Kevin Durant were playing in front of him, right? And he had a trouble adjusting to not being the guy. And I know it's a different situation when you're coming off of injury and you have to slow ramp that way. And I give him a lot of credit, guys, for going through, like, rehab is hard. You talk to a player about rehab, and he will tell you those days are lonely. So I can imagine how internally motivated he had to be to get to this point. So I don't want to gloss over that. But Kevin Durant is the template. We don't even remember or talk about Kevin Durant and his Achilles injury in the 2019 NBA Finals because he's come back and been such a great player since. He almost took 2 full years off. And I know Jayson Tatum is a lot younger, maybe a couple years younger than what Kevin Durant was. But I do think that Jayson Tatum wants to come back in and show that he's Jayson Tatum, to show that he's still that guy. Like, I don't think there's any expectation that he's going to walk in and just say, you know what, I'm going to be a defender and a rebounder and a spot-up shooter, which would be absolutely great if that was. But I think we have to be careful about anointing the Celtics at this point. And here's the last point I'll make. This is the year 1 of a $314 million extension with Jayson Tatum and the Celtics. This is year 2 of a $285 million extension between Jaylen Brown. They have to play all of this like this is a long-term investment and not something short-term. I don't think he's going to injure his Achilles again, but I think it's going to take a minute before we see Jayson Tatum be Jayson Tatum again.
I forgot that they put that graphic up that Kobe Bryant came back a similar time frame to what Jayson Tatum is doing. But anyways, do you think Tatum should come off the bench tonight? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't. Yeah, he should definitely come off the bench. He's just ramping up. This is what ramping up looks like. And the difference between the Kevin Durant situation, Kevin Durant was coming back to be the guy on the team and carry that load. When Kevin Durant came back, you think about the Milwaukee Bucks playoff series and all the stuff he did, playing 48 minutes and all that stuff. Jayson Tatum is not going to do that for a very long time. If there are about 25 other teams in this league, if you said a guy was coming back fewer than 300 days from a torn Achilles, I'd be really worried about it. The Boston Celtics is not that organization. I think they understand if you get a guy that can give me 15 points a game, maybe, good defense, role player on this team, we can win a championship, and everybody should be on the same page with that.
Double D, completely agree with you. And VG, the point you made about the financials with the 2 superstar players for the Celtics is what gives me confidence that this is the right move because they know what's at stake, and they're not going to put Jayson Tatum in harm's way. The only question that I have is Jayson Tatum from a mentality standpoint ready to deal with going through the rigors, the bumps, the bangs of this type of basketball as we get down to the stretch run of the regular season.
You're going into March. That's the heaviest month of the season.
But that's my point. Yeah. Is he going to be prepared for that? Is he going to be able to adjust to that? Is he going to be able to get over the psychological hurdle that every professional athlete goes through when they're coming back from a catastrophic injury? That's the part that we don't know the answer to the question of. We don't know whether or not, from a mentality standpoint, he's able to get past the point where he realizes that this Achilles is something that I can trust, that my body is something that I can trust, that I can go out and play the game free like I've always done my entire life. That is going to be the biggest challenge for the Boston Celtics, Jayson Tatum overcoming that aspect.
I get it now. Y'all two wearing green, being so positive about the Celtics today. I see the synergy. I get it. I respect it.
What do you think? What do you think his impact should be tonight? You think he should come off the bench? What do you think? How many minutes?
I think he should. I think you play around 15 or 20 minutes. Like the adrenaline of a first game, I think sets the tone, right? But a lot of times a player comes back in the first game and he plays over his head, and then you come back down to earth after that. He's going to be home, national TV game, ESPN's going to be there. He's going to be so amped up, or as amped up as a player like Jayson Tatum can be. But he's been looking forward to this since the day he got hurt, since he had the surgery. I hope someone is there to keep things level.
I'm sure there will be. Heck of a ticket tonight. You get to see Jayson Tatum return and Cooper Flag.
Hello.
Hello.